minutes to make your presentation, and we have 5 to 10 minutes to ask questions. We are done for this session. Okay? Shall we? We are ready? Okay. All right, start. Because you're making presentation. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I've been asked to speak about digital divide and ISPs in West Africa, and I'll be mostly focusing on the role of ISPs in bridging the digital divide. Can we have the first slide, please? Next. So before I go to the subject matter, I'll just have quickly brief about the Internet Society. The Internet Society operates at an intersection of policy, technology, and development, and this allows us to be a thought leader on issues that are key to the Internet's continued growth and evolution around the world. Our mission is mainly promoting the open development and use of the Internet for the benefits of people throughout the world. Next slide, please. So this is our global presence. We have 6 regional bureaus and we have 108 chapters worldwide. We have many chapters in Africa as well, which we're trying to support and build so that they can carry our mission and objectives. We have over 70,000 members and supporters and 145 organization members. Next slide, please. So going to the subject matter, I'll just start by saying what's a digital divide. So we've been talking about it earlier. Simply, it's the gap between those who have access to the Internet and those who don't. But why is digital divide becoming important these days? So growth and social inclusion, which are critical for many African countries, are expected to be promoted by bridging non-Internet users around, non-Internet users around the world online, the world and the continent online. Hence, for this reason, more and more significant digital divide is becoming more and more significant than in the past 5 years. Next slide, please. But what are the challenges? So we know when we talk about digital divide, we have challenges. So these challenges for us are mainly 3. The first one is availability of access. Access is increasing in Africa. Internet penetration in the continent has grown from 0.78% before the year 2000 to 28.7% today. So we have seen an increase, but a lot needs to be done still. And then there's also the challenge of affordability. Internet is not an affordable thing in the continent, so a lot needs to be done on that aspect as well. And lack of interest, this has been mentioned by one of the presenters in the previous session. People don't simply find contents that interest them in their local language, so even if they have access to the Internet, they're not interested in using it. Next slide. So when we speak about the roles of Internet exchange points, to start with, an Internet exchange point is, as you all know, is a physical infrastructure through which Internet service providers and content delivery networks exchange Internet traffic between their networks. This is the simple definition of it. So what do ISPs mainly do? They keep local Internet traffic within local infrastructure and reduce costs associated with traffic exchange between networks. They also improve the quality of Internet service and drive demand by reducing delay and improving end-user experience. They also create a convenient hub for attracting key Internet infrastructures within countries. But last but not least, they also act as a catalyst for overall Internet development, including commercial, governmental, and academic stakeholders. So these are the primary roles of IXPs as we see them. So going forward, next slide please. How can IXPs address the issue of digital divide? So this is the main question that we'll have in mind. The first one is access. IXPs can address the issues of access. This is done by enabling local ISPs to connect directly together and exchange domestic traffic. The second one is improved quality of user experience through quality service. And this, of course, includes speed of access to contents like Google Cache and Akamai Cache, reliability and promotion of local content hosted locally. ISPs also attract more content providers along with businesses, academic and government users, which definitely contributes to a vibrant internet ecosystem. ISPs also attract more connectivity providers, creating an opportunity for regional hub for internet traffic. Cost of access. ISPs can also mitigate the cost of access and make internet affordable, basically. ISPs benefiting from savings on international capacity cost along with improved quality of service results in additional revenue. So ISPs get more revenue. And lower of ISP operational costs also leads to lower end user costs. So eventually internet becomes affordable by all of us. So let's look at what's happening in West Africa. In 2008, we had done a survey actually, internally, and this is basically what we had found out. As you can see, there were only 3 countries who had ISPs in West Africa. And basically the map is quite empty, was quite empty then. When we go to the next slide, I'll just skip the data and go to the next slide, please. The gaps that were identified was Central, North, and West Africa were lagging behind in IXP development. And that year, only, like I mentioned, 3 West African countries had IXPs, which were only Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana. Next slide, please. So, next slide. After identifying these gaps, the Internet Society and partners started working together to change the situation. So a major example of this is ISOC's Interconnection and Traffic Exchange ITE program. So this map basically shows the activities we've done from 2008 to 2016. So you can see the best practices, technical aspects we've done, supports we've given to building IXPs, and so on and so forth. So you want this data, we can avail it to you. Next slide, please. So the vision of the ITE, the ISOC's ITE program, was to have 80% local and 20% international internet traffic by 2020. So pursuing on this vision, we have done a lot of work, as you have seen in the map, and we had impact on Africa's interconnection system. Next slide, please. So within those years, from 2008 to 2016, we conducted 15 workshops in 15 African countries on technical and policy-related issues on IXP development. The workshops have trained over 3,000 engineers and policymakers. We've established and organized 7 African peering and interconnection forum events. The last one just took place in Dar es Salaam, and next year we're trying and working on bringing it to West Africa. We've supported the establishment and activities of the African IXP Association, which is APIX. We've provided technical assistance equipment support to at least 10 IXPs around the continent. We've also created awareness with key policy stakeholders such as the UNEC, African Union, regional regulatory associations, and regional economic communities in this regard. We've contributed to the overall growth of the African peering ecosystem. And this work altogether has led the Internet Society to be awarded to implement the African Union Access project, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. Next slide, please. So when we briefly look at the Access project, the African Union awarded the Internet Society 2 contracts to implement Access project between 2012 and 2014. Projects focused on capacity building and technical assistance in establishing IXPs. Overall, phase 1 of the Access project trained close to 1,200 people from 30 African countries over 2 years. Access best practice workshops covered 30 African countries and trained 700, whereas the technical aspect also covered 20 countries and trained over 500 engineers in interconnection technologies in 3 languages, which are French, English, and Portuguese. The phase 2 of Access conducted 5 workshops across 5 geographic regions of Africa. And it's also engaged over 350 experts from relevant public, private sector to discuss regional interconnection issues in English and French languages. Next slide, please. So this is how the Access project map looks like. All the green ones are for best practice workshops we've done, and the best practice also completed, and also the technical aspects and where IXPs have been established and where we're supported every country to reach that. Next slide, please. So when we look at the outcome, this is where we thought it was important to have this project. Is we have had 10 new IXPs established as a result of this project. Most successful IXP projects in the region and raised the importance of IXP across the continent. It also established new partnerships to enable deliver workshops in different languages, which I mentioned before. In the process, we also developed regional Francophone IXP experts with the support of partners. Next slide, please. So the second phase of the project looked very promising as well, and at least 2 IXPs per region will be receiving financial assistance to enable them to evolve and grow to become regional IXPs. The project also will provide technical assistance to IXPs to enable them to evolve and become regional, basically, careers. Project established and supported work of 5 regional task forces to review policy and regulatory barriers that inhibit national and cross-border interconnection in their respective regions. Next slide. So, okay, I'm almost done. Where are we today? So as you can see, the map has become a bit colorful. More IXPs in West and Central Africa, 7 IXPs in West Africa from only 3 in 2008. Now we have Gambia and Benin. We have 3 IXPs in Nigeria, so something good. So what are the next steps? We need to get more countries establish IXPs, and the Internet Society is willing to work with every stakeholder in order to build that. We need to get more cross-border interconnection, and we need to also increase traffic at IXPs, because if we build IXPs and there's no traffic exchange, then there's no use for it. We also need to do leveling up. That's very important as well. We need to promote local content, as we've mentioned before, and developing content hosting infrastructures, basically, which are the carrier-neutral data centers. And also, as we all know, develop better policies, basically. So, to wrap up, recently the Internet Society has signed an MOU with the ECOWAS. So this we hope will enable us to do more work within the region. be it on the aspect of infrastructure, capacity building, or policy development. So we really look forward for that to happen. And as mentioned this morning, we need to have objectives and clear goals, and we need to know what IGFs really need from us in order to support them, because we need to plan as well, we need to budget for it as well. So if we have that beforehand, and if we know what you want us to support you with, then we will be able to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. She said 1 minute, and I give it to